Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Fantasy Firebox, brought to you by the Heat Ratio Sports Network. I am your host, Tony Jigsaw Cotillo, joined as always by Pittsburgh John Coker, Dan the Hockey Man Green, and Mr. Jason Sullivan. Boys, it is an exciting week. It was a fun playoff week in fantasy. We're going to talk about our playoff fantasy survivor leagues. We're going to talk about our DFS crossover league for the Heat Ratio to see who came out on top and what lineups worked the best and what players did not produce. Talk about the NBA as it's continued to be exciting and on the brink of a major trade. We might as well get into that right off the bat. Tons of fantasy implications, not so much DFS, but more traditional wide. A guy like James Harden, who we've talked about, tumultuous times on this show, goes and he leaves, a very toxic situation in Houston and goes to Brooklyn. And I'll tell you what, if Kyrie Irving ever decides he wants to play again and gets over whatever drama he's going through, that is going to be one hell of a big three. And again, we're going to talk 76ers a little bit because they have a lot of fantasy potential as well. But I'll tell you, Jason, right off the bat, I mean, that big three, if they are all healthy and they are all in shape and in sync, they are a fantasy threesome monster, aren't they?
Yeah, not just fantasy, but I mean, just overall NBA. It's going to be crazy. I mean, that's a matchup nightmare for anybody. That's going to be the thing. The interesting thing, I know we were kind of talking a little bit before the show, is going to be how they all coexist. It's three guys that need the ball in their hands all the time, and kind of all three guys are used to the offense running through them. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. But I mean, it's almost like OKC back in the day with, instead of Russ, you obviously have Kyrie, which I don't know, if you give me a choice of who, head to head, I'd pick Kyrie. So it's almost better. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, who in the East is going to be able to stop them? That's the biggest question. They don't play defense. I mean, they're going to win every game 155 to 145, but it's going to be exciting.
Exactly. I mean, listen, it's definitely a lot of mouths to feed. A lot of mouths to feed out there. And listen, we're not sure on how that's going to go, but if you break it down, here's the thing I want to get into. And Dan, I'll ask you right off the top. We've talked about on this show about James Harden being that he's ranging between 10,800 to like 11,1, a big time number. Last two games really hasn't looked like he's very interested in playing. He's not been. You basically, like you say, you don't like to chase numbers, but you were chasing numbers with James Harden. Will he come back down to reality a little bit as a week to week, or I should say a daily DFS stud?
Well, I think with this trade taking place, I think he's going to be revitalized, rejuvenated. He's going to come right out of his buffet and then go be excited to play for a new Nets team.
Right out of his buffet.
He's going to be excited about the meal he just had, and now he's playing for a team that he wanted to play for with people he wanted to play for. But seriously, once he gets into game shape, and I think the initial adrenaline excitement of joining a new team, I think he's going to come out smoking. And then, his conditioning will play a factor, I think, in the near future until he really gets himself back into shape. But once he is back into shape, I think his numbers are going to. They could come down from the perspective that he's now with Duran, and like you said, if Irving comes back, they still have to share the ball, so his numbers won't be as outrageous as they were with Houston. So I would assume they will come down from the 10-5 range.
Yeah, I think so. I think they'll come down. I mean, because right now Kevin Durant is playing out of his mind. Right? He's playing out of his mind, and again, he is one of those guys, in my opinion. And I wanted to get into him because I want to talk about him. I want to talk about Steph Curry, because even Luka Doncic, for that matter, the guy has scored over 70 fantasy points in DraftKings 2 out of the last 3 games he's played, which is an astronomical number. And we've talked many of times on this show, football wise, with guys like Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry. Do we want to chase that big number? I honestly think that big number in basketball is more worth it than it is in football, because in football DFS, so many things have to happen, right? You look at what Derrick Henry did in the playoffs this weekend, it was putrid. So if you took Derrick Henry as one of your guys in playoff fantasy DFS, you had a really, really bad day, okay? But in basketball, bad days actually aren't that bad. I mean, it's a matter of saying, all right, he didn't give me 70 points, but maybe he gave me 40. You know what I mean? So you just never know, what's going to happen. But I'll tell you what, I'm excited to see, because I know Jarrell's checking in. He says doom and gloom for the Sixers. What's up, Jarrell? Thanks for checking in, buddy. Again, I was on the Harden train, a Harden for Ben train, and because I seen the ability, and from a fantasy standpoint, James Harden going to this team. More I think about it, Jason, I think this does work between him and Durant, because I think James wants to win a ring. He's going to buy into, Steve Nash real fast. Steve Nash, is a different style coach. He's a player's coach. So I really think he'll put his perspectives first. But Trevor checking in, Andre checking in. Andre, good to see you fellas at their sports day like today. Big sports day, Andre. Absolutely. A lot of fantasy talk. That's why we're bringing it. Trevor checking in. What up to? I tested positive for COVID-19. Trev, my man, heart goes out. I hope you're good. I'm still dealing with it on a personal level within the family, so I know it's no joke. Hopefully that it doesn't put you out, and you'll be okay and do your quarantine. And a lot of us have gone through it. It affects everybody differently, but hopefully at the end of the day you'll be back, and I hear your fiery voice once again. But let's start off with football. And I want to start off only because the playoffs this weekend, we talked a lot about playoff DFS. We talked a lot about playoff Survivor, 2 different kinds of formats. Obviously, it's up to you which way you want to play. The great thing about DraftKings and other outlets is you can just play game by game, or you can go head to head. A lot of disappointing performances, a lot of big time performances this weekend. And I want to review a little bit, and I want to look back. Now, I'll tell you what, there's no way, in my opinion, that Lamar Jackson rushes for over 130 yards again. I don't see it. I know the Bills, the one susceptible to the thing they are is against the run, but I just don't see it. But overall, and John, I'll go for you because you're the big football guy here, and I know we talked about this. We kid last night, on Heat Ratio Live about Ben Roethlisberger throwing almost 70 times, which is unbelievable. Who was one of your biggest disappointments, on one of your lineups last weekend for Wild Card Weekend?
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think that's the consensus with everybody, right?
Yeah. That was in the draft that I had.
That's right.
I had Henry, so I not only did he do nothing, I also don't have him for the rest of the playoffs. So that's not good.
That hurts.
But I had high hopes. Not that he was a stud, but I had high hopes for Cole Kmet in a lot of my leagues. I thought it was cheap money that really didn't come through. Trying to think what else. Oh, like there was what did Cole Beasley do?
He,
Like
he
50 yards or 7 for 50 or something like that.
Yeah, he wasn't breaking the
Oh
world.
no, was it John Brown that had 0?
John Brown had 0. Yeah,
Nothing.
Yeah, John Brown, the donut. Thinking, look, all he needs to do is hit one play. He got 60 yards in the bag. Yeah, John Brown's donut. That's it.
Yo,
Every time I eat a donut, I'm gonna think of John Brown.
how about Stefan Diggs though? And again, remember that's why I said the only guy worth playing in Buffalo. That's why I took Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback because I wanted Stefan Diggs as my receiver, and he went off. I mean, listen, I don't know what's going to happen this week, but my big three of Mahomes, Aaron Jones, and Stefan Diggs is still staying the test of time. But yeah, listen, I mean, you can't foresee that. A lot of people took Derrick Henry, thought they was going to have a big game. I mean, obviously they shut him down. Yeah, 42 yards. I mean, wow. That is. I'll tell you what, he's not easy to shut down, but that's the only problem with Tennessee. They rely so much on Derrick Henry that if you can shut him down, their offense just goes down the toilet, man. But Dan,
you got to hit him early.
What's that? What's that, John?
Oh, my bad. No, you got to hit him early. I mean, the way to stop him, you can't let him get a yard or two of steam. Literally only a yard. But if you start nicking him, you know what I mean? Just a little bit of contact and just keep swarming and keep them in the pocket. Yeah, and they're Tannehill to beat you.
No, that's absolutely true. I know a lot of people were on a Derek Tannehill, or the Ryan Tannehill wagon, I should say. I think Corey Davis got him a fat donut too.
0. Yep.
Yeah, another donut guy.
Yeah.
Like how do you even get a 0 in a playoff game? That's just wow. Yeah, they're the kind of performances though that I say I'll never draft that guy again if he's on my team. Like you just show up and you get a 0. It's just even the playoffs. Come on, man, unbelievable. Unbelievable. How about you, Dan? How'd you make out?
The league that I do that I enjoy is I have it's like a suicide pool type of thing. You play a traditional lineup, but once you use the players, you cannot use them the following week.
Okay.
So it's there's obviously strategy involved, and I usually do 2 lineups, and I try to do an AFC side and an NFC side. But the guys that killed me on one of my rosters was Montgomery and Robinson. And then the other side, the only guy that really hurt me was Derrick Henry. I was one of the few guys that played Cam Akers. So
I played Cam Akers too.
Right now I'm in 3rd place, but that was the lineup that did not have Montgomery and Robinson.
And I'll tell you what, that was a secret play for me. I played Cam Akers because obviously you got Jared Goff, who you didn't even know was going to play. He gets surgery on his thumb just 2 weeks ago. I can't trust any of the receivers, right? So, you know that they're going to run the rock, and they've already established that Cam Akers is their guy. I didn't know if they were going to advance past week 1. But Seattle wasn't playing that well. I mean, they haven't been clicking. So Cam Akers was a great pick. I like that pick a lot. Jason, how about you, buddy? How'd you make out?
So I had a pretty huge week. I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not trying to sound like a D-bag when I say that, but so I really did. I had a lot of the Tampa Bay stack, but kind of playing off of what I just said, I had Gronk and John Brown in my best lineup of the week. So I got 2 zeros in my best lineup, which I still wanted a good chunk of change. So I was happy about that, right? But I mean, I looked at that. I'm like, man, I could have scored if they had decent games. I could have put up 230, and then I would have been way up in the money. So
wow,
I had a pretty good week. I stayed. I kind of did. I was listening to another show. Joel Holka. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's really good. So he was kind of breaking down some strategies last week, and he was saying to take your chances early. So then if you get to the last game of the day and you need to do something crazy, you can switch out. Like I had a crap ton of Brady. I could have switched out Brady for, Heineke or whatever his name was. So basically you kind of see how the day goes. You take your chances early. So that's what I did. I did a bunch of that. And I played a bunch of Bucks. So in my Bucks stack, I had Brady, Evans, Antonio Brown, and Gronk. So pretty much that was pretty much the entire offense except Godwin. So it worked out pretty well for me.
That's good.
Another funny thing, I'm sorry to interrupt, is that
no, man, you're good.
I did some DFS plays too, and I was just doing mediocre. But the 2 lineups where I hit, apparently not as well as Jason, is I just for shits and giggles loaded up with Steelers. I had Deontay Johnson, Roethlisberger, and Claypool in one lineup. And at one point, it was a terrible lineup. And then when you're down 28-0 and you're forced to throw 68 times, you get garbage points, which is what happened. So that lineup turned out to have monster numbers for me because it was total garbage play. But we'll take it.
That's what it's all about. Listen, when we're playing fantasy, we don't care who wins or loses. Correct. It's all about stats,
exactly.
Right? It's all about
stats. What's funny, too? All the talk last week was about, do you want to play the chalk of Josh Allen? Everybody was talking about Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. And they're like, I saw so many people say, I'm going to fade the chalk. Well, if you faded the chalk last week, it bit you in the butt. So you don't always want to do that. I mean, I kind of stick to it. Sounds so stupid and simple in your head, but it's like, play lineups that make sense. Play good players. Like, I don't care if they're going to be 70% owned. If they hit, I want them. So,
no, you're right. Yeah. You're right. I think it's just, if you stay above, like 70% is a good number. You see a lot of top guys are 73 to 80% owned. If you can listen, you grab 80% of those guys, you're fine as long as you get one or two guys that are a little different. Because that's it. Because the thing is, even though you win with everybody, you also lose with everybody too. So everybody who had Derrick Henry, I think he had like an 84% ownership. Well, 84% of the people had the same. They had the same hit in the gut, just like you. So it just depends on who else you had, and that's what people they fail to realize. That I never understand it. I don't get it, but you have to sit there. And it's funny. I sat with my son. And I was trying to explain to him how never go with your first lineup. I said, listen, go, take your first lineup, look at it, and then start to change some things around. It's like a Rubik's Cube, right? I said, you'll be amazed at who you can fit in that you didn't realize that you could in the beginning. I said, so we did like one lineup. I forget exactly what it was. And then we changed it around, and he was like, I like that lineup so much better. I'm like, see, you would never knew you could have done that lineup if you didn't mess around with it. So
you know what? Another thing you can do that makes your lineup really unique too. Leave a little bit of money on the table. I know people hate doing that. People don't want to do that. Leave $300 on the table. I mean, that's a great way to make your lineup different. Most people aren't going to do that. So
no. Sometimes it messes with your head. What's up, John?
Right. I've lost a couple times by tweaking my lineup. Like I had it, like I always do the pass and look at it, but then it was like the next day, like I go in and I start monkeying with it, and I monkeyed it all up, like swapping out like 3 players. You know what I mean? Like maybe I had a little bit of cash, or there was news that came out, and I said, "Oh, let me see if I could get this value." And all I know is like I think my sleepers hit, and I took them out. Like 1 or 2 of them hit, and I took them out of the lineup to get like a real cheap guy. And then like upgrade the other 2 slots, and it killed me.
It always does. It always does. I learned my lesson that what I do, and this weekend it was Jack Doyle. So I learned my lesson because every time I tinker, I would get screwed. So now what I do is I make sure that I still play that lineup I tinkered with somehow. Even if it's in a lower rated contest, I don't care. I'm playing it. And because Jack Doyle was one of my guys. Like Jack Doyle, I have a feeling he's going to go off. Phil loves the tight end. It's going to be a problem for Buffalo. And he did. But my best lineup, I took him out because Jason, I was $700 under when I did the lineup. And I was like, I can't. There's no way. And I wound up taking Doyle out, and I wound up changing my defense around, which actually worked because I took the Browns defense. But the guy, I think I put a Tyler Higbee in there for the Rams, and it completely bombed my entire lineup. But yeah, it happens all the time. It's one of those things. It's say go with your first lineup, go with your first, but. Sometimes it's hard, man. Sometimes it's hard. Tinker around. So that's what I can tell everybody. Tinker around. But let's look at this next weekend. This divisional matchups. A lot of good offense that we're going to see. A whole lot. And again, I want to start off with the Cleveland game from a fantasy perspective because, I know that. We talked about last night. I was messing with Coach Dave because I said, you got to give my boy Baker some love. And the one way you win in the playoffs, which we all know, is be able to run the ball and to be able to stop the run. And that's what you have to do. And this game between Cleveland and Kansas City could go sideways real fast if Kansas City isn't careful. And I say that in all honesty because, the Browns and the Rams, their defense is no joke. And the Browns can actually make a little noise if they're if they're smart and if they're careful, which I think they will be. They're playing with confidence. And when you have confidence, it is the ultimate X factor, the ultimate intangible. It is. And I know the Chiefs are 14-2, but just from a fantasy playoff perspective, because the fun part about playoff fantasy is if you aren't in a Survivor League, we're going to look at these teams right now. Okay, you have the Rams, the Packers, the Ravens, the Bills, Browns, Chiefs, Bucks, and Saints. And what we're going to do on this show is just, we're not going to break down every single game. We're going to formulate our lineup in our heads, not specifically, but just say, guys who you would think, who would you take from each team? And we talked about, now don't put you guys on the spot here, okay, but let's do it this way. Okay, we talked about fantasy survivor leagues, okay? And we talked about where you have a quarterback, you have 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, we'll say a tight end, and a flex spot. And we're going to pretend that we can't pick more than 1 player per team in this, okay? And this is stuff that's ad-libbed here, and stuff we did not rehearse. We're going to put each other on the spot. And the thing is, as we pick, we're not going to be able to, if Dan Green picks Cam Akers, well, now if I wanted Cooper Kupp, I'm done. Can't put him in there. So this is going to be our own fantasy Firebox lineup. So I'm going to go with, put the guy on the spot, Mr. Pittsburgh here, because I know he said, I don't want to talk a lot of I don't want to talk a lot of basketball, but that's okay.
I didn't say I didn't want to talk a lot of basketball. I said I don't have a lot to talk about with basketball.
Hey, do you feel that bus go right over the top of you right now?
Yeah, I have to. That exactly. I love riding the bus. Trust me. I love to do. I can tell you that right now. So, John, I'm going to give you the most important spot of our fantasy survival lineup, and it's going to be the quarterback. So right now, everything is off the table. Starting from scratch, we're going from these 8 games, these 4 games this weekend. You tell me who's going to be your quarterback.
Well, and you said we can only take 1 from each team,
right? So you have the 4 games.
I don't want to start a quarterback though.
You have to.
But it's going to change if I got to start.
No, you're right. No, you're right. That's good because I remember last week you were very adamant about I don't want to start a quarterback. By the way, how Kamara do for you?
I will start with a comment at quarterback.
No. Let's start wherever. No, it's a good idea. I'm glad you said that. Start wherever you want, and we'll just fill in as we get to the next person. That's all. Start in where you want. We won't even do that. So you tell me a player who's going to be your first guy off the board right now.
I'm going Devontae Adams.
All right, so there's we have our 1 wide receiver, and I don't know why anybody wouldn't pick him. And again, right now, I don't want to get into it because it'll take too long. But I was going to say we could actually pull up the DraftKings Sportsbook right now and go by the money value and build the team, which we probably could. But I'll do that.
I have it up in front of me if you want.
Yeah, you know what? You want to put that up?
And I have a lineup already in.
Oh, there you go. Can you edit that lineup and then go back to it so we know what kind of money we're dealing with?
I got a blank screen.
All right, beautiful. All right. So right now we got Devontae Adams.
Mm-hmm.
So Dan, I'm going to put you up next. Now again, here's the fun part. You can't pick a Green Bay Packer now.
No, I initially thought we were going to each do our own team, so I already have a team plotted out.
Oh, so, there you go. See,
but
so you're good.
Adams was one of my wide receivers, so I'm cool with that. So I'll help with I'll just do I'll continue with the receiver position. I'll go Diggs.
Stephen, 2 big time receivers. You can't go wrong with Stephen Diggs. I'll tell you what, anybody thought that Stephen Diggs was not going to be a number 1 guy in the playoffs and not continue what his number 1 production was in the regular season was crazy. He is just a man possessed right now. Josh Allen's number 1 guy. So he has absolutely been phenomenal. Jason, up to you, buddy. Where are you going?
I'm going to make it a little interesting. I'm going to go Cam Akers. The only guy on that team I have any interest in.
Yeah.
He was in my lineup.
I love Cam Akers.
Smart man.
Love Cam Akers. And I'll tell you what, let's as we pause real fast, because this brings me to an interesting discussion, because Dan, you talked about, David Montgomery really hit you in the ass a little bit this weekend. And he was one of those guys we talked about as over like the last 5 weeks being a top 3 running back. Cam Akers is a kid who's got a ton of potential. And you finally seen the torch pass. I mean, we talked about on that team in the beginning, was it, we all thought it was going to be Malcolm Brown, and it wound up being, Darrell Henderson, and then it was Malcolm Brown again. Then Cam Akers came in. Then they went back. Looking forward, because we're going to do a show eventually about going forward in the next year, but just a quick synopsis of, where do you see Cam Akers next year? Could he possibly, I think he's absolutely in the top 10. But could he possibly break it in that like top 7? Because he is very talented when you talk about preseason rankings. What do you think?
Well, I think with the with that coaching staff locked, I still think they want to do a running back by committee. He might get most of the workload, of course, but you first want to look at the teams that have bell cows and at the very least a little bit of a secondary running back. So I don't know if he's top 7, without really scrutinizing a board right now, but that's my only concern for him, is I think that they want to do a running back by committee.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they definitely did that coming in. My gut feeling says that it was only for the simple fact that they weren't sold on him as a ball handler and as a kid who could pick up the playbook right away.
You're right. They had Gurley for years as the main guy. So you're right.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say exactly that.
You're right. He's a kid now. Now he's given them confidence to go forward with him. I think you're right, Martha.
Yeah, and I think this is perfect for fantasy owners, especially if you're in a keeper league, because you want to go ahead with Cam Akers, because McVay. Listen, he is giddy at what he sees from that kid, and you could tell he's going to continue to build this offense around him, because we all know that McVay does not trust Jared Goff to throw the ball 30 or 40 times a game. We know that. So that's one of the reasons why he wants multiple running backs. He wants to run a system like Cleveland. But Cam Akers, to me, is going to be the number one guy. He's, for my money, he's every bit of top 7. And I honestly, every bit. And I think he could bump in to that 5th slot as well. I really do. I'm really high on Cam Akers.
Well, another back that parallels him in almost the same situation, and we talked about this weeks ago, is Jonathan Taylor. They had the trio thing going, and then he finally took the bull by the horns. So he has to be in that top tier conversation. And Montgomery is the main back in Chicago. So, without, giving it intense thought, and again, having my board in front of me, but yeah, you could be right.
Rich Sexton's got a good point. He says Malcolm Brown is a free agent, and that's a great point, because Malcolm Brown's not coming back.
No, he's
no. And if Henderson comes back and he's healthy, there's your backup. And it makes Cam Akers even that much more attainable. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. First off, I want to give you a shout out for being about 2 weeks ahead of Cam Akers before, you were early on him.
My
over
man,
everybody
thanks,
else.
Buddy.
So, shout out for that. I think Dan brought up a good point, the Todd Gurley comparison. Remember Gurley, I think it was like 3-4 years ago, when he would put up 30 points every single game. We didn't even know who the backup was. If he got hurt, I didn't even know who the backup running back was. So I think just the amount of carries that he's getting, his last few games, 28, 21, 15, which he got hurt that game, 29 and 21 carries. In the last 5 games, that's a lot of carries. He's getting, 20 plus carries a game. They're not going to have much room for anybody else. The other guys are fine, but they're backups at best. So I like him. Like you said too, McVay wants a running back. He wants a bell cow, and I think that he turns into a bell cow next year. And he had some issues at the beginning too. I think he was a little dinged up in camp as well. So I think that's what started him a little slow. But I love him going forward.
Yeah.
Do you think he's top 10? Fantasy
100%.
draft?
I think he's top 7 and maybe even 5.
Yes.
I think you guys are nuts.
Oh,
John,
talk to me. Why do you think we're nuts?
No, I like him, but I don't like him top 7 pick like him. Look, you're going off of a small, and I liked him going into the year. I drafted him in a lot of leagues thinking that he was going to take that job. I mean, he did well at Florida State with no offensive line. So I really liked the guy. It was just a whole season long, all three of them guys, doing some. Granted, Tone, we always talk about it, rookies, pass blocking, third down. But look, they've been giving him the rock, and that is what they want to do. But are they going to be able to sustain all next year? Can you bank on him getting 20 carries a week all next year? Maybe, but I'm not taking the 5-game sample and putting my first round pick on it. Can
we do who would you pick over him? Can we ask that question?
Remember, John, we are talking about running backs. We're not saying a top 7 pick, but so who would you let's just say for simple, we'll do top 7. Say if we have Cam Akers as the 7th running back, who are 6 running backs you would take over Cam Akers? And again, this is early. I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, we'll help you with those two.
First thing, you look at the top 4, top 5 that were taken this past year. I mean, that's where you start. So, okay, even, Akers or Zeke, maybe that's comparable, but McCaffrey, Kamara,
Alvin
Saquon,
Barkley,
Saquon or top 4. I mean, that's right off the giddy.
Henry.
Yeah, Henry. Oh, duh. Yeah, Henry.
There's 5.
Do you go Chubb or do you go Akers?
I go Akers.
How about Taylor Montgomery?
I think
Taylor's the same.
Montgomery, I would take behind Akers. I would take Akers over Montgomery. I think Akers and Taylor's an interesting equation. I do. The only thing I will say is the only reason why I would lean towards Akers is because I still think they really like Nyheim Hines. And even though Jonathan Taylor showed, I still think that they'll get very greedy with putting Hines in there a little too much to take away from some fantasy value. Just the only thing I could think of.
My sleeper is AJ Dillon.
He's a big time.
Would you sign Jones with that kid in the background?
And that's a tough one. Because he's a different kind of back. Aaron Jones, the one thing that people don't realize is how much more Aaron Jones does for pass protection and the passing game and listen, Aaron Jones is one of the big reasons why Devontae Adams gets open so much as well. Yeah. Right? So I don't think A.J. Dillon gives you that kind of benefit.
I'm just wondering if they sign Aaron Jones is my question ultimately.
What's that?
My question is, will they sign Aaron Jones?
Right.
The money he wants.
Yeah, he wants big money. I think they will.
Yeah.
I think they will.
Okay, I don't think they will.
John, everybody's saying no?
I don't think they'll pay.
Let me think about that. Because you do have Aaron Rodgers, 35 years old, going ahead. I guess you have to. You know what? I don't know. I think they do. I really do. I do.
They drafted Dillon high. They have Jamal Williams still there. Between the two of them, look, you don't spend money on Aaron Jones. In my opinion, I'm not paying the money. We've seen what running backs have done and do from year to year. I mean, I'm not extending him. Nor are the Steelers going to do anything about James Conner. He's gone. If the hole ain't there, if the offensive line doesn't make a hole, I don't care who you have back there. They're not going to be able to run through something that doesn't exist. So get rid of them and get somebody in the draft in the 3rd round and throw them in there.
Nah, this is true. I get it. I do. I completely understand. I just think that he is such an integral part of that offense that, Green Bay, they don't sign defensive players to big money. They don't. They rely on their scouting department and their drafting ability for the defensive side of the ball. What they do is they spend money on offense. And I still say Matt LaFleur really likes Aaron Jones, and Aaron Rodgers still runs that team. And if Aaron Rodgers is there and Aaron Rodgers wants Aaron Jones, I think he gets Aaron Jones. Now, do I think that Aaron Jones is going to get a 5 to 6 year deal? No. But I do think that they come to some kind of agreement where he gets about a 3-year deal, maybe 4 years where the cap hit isn't tremendous and they backload it a little bit, give him some upfront money. I think that he's going to be a part of Green Bay. I do. I don't think they trust A.J. Dillon to be the guy. I think they let Jamal Williams eventually walk, and I think A.J. Dillon's a great number 2, and they try to set it up like Chubb and Hunt in Cleveland. I just think that Aaron Jones is that important to the Green Bay Packers. But very interesting. Listen, these are kind of interesting discussions that we get to have in the whole offseason because there is a lot. When we talk about, and those top 5 guys I think are pretty much locked. It's going to be interesting to see how Christian McCaffrey comes back next year. But, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, they could go so many different ways. I mean, you think about what we came in with the preseason last year as opposed to the way we ended. There's guys that are in there that weren't in there in September. So it's going to be great discussion. What's that?
Like a James Robinson type.
Yeah,
player.
He's another great guy.
And honestly, a lot of people out there who don't know the Eagles like we do, every week they're forcing Miles Sanders down our throat. And we know, we just knew he's not going to be productive. He's not going to be productive. They just don't know what we know. But with this potential new coaching staff, maybe Miles Sanders becomes viable because he is very talented.
Yeah, I boned that pick, man. I thought Miles Sanders. I was on the Miles Sanders train, even though everybody, John was one of them. Well, everybody tried to talk me off the ledge, and they said, "Listen, I don't trust Doug Peterson. Don't trust the way they're going to utilize him." I just thought that Deuce Staley had more of a voice on that team, and I thought, Deuce coming out saying, "Listen, he could carry the ball 20, 25 times a game. He could be the bell cow." I thought, you know what? He's going to push this, and they didn't really sign anybody, and he's the guy. I don't know if – here's the thing. He did get injured early, so I don't know if that really hindered the ability for him becoming that back or not. I'm not sure. But like you said, Dan, different coaching staff this year. We'll see what happens. Miles Sanders is a guy to watch, most definitely. But we mentioned Cam Akers. Right now we have Cam Akers, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. And we look at this slate this weekend. So many interesting options. You can only pick one. I'll tell you what. You know what, man, this is a tough one. I mean, because even if you're not going about money and we're just talking about Ultimate Survivor, and we're not even looking at a number value, I guess in my opinion, I'll have to go with Alvin Kamara. And I'll have to give us, him as our second running back. And right there, you go kind of lower value with Cam Akers because the only guy that you want to own for the Rams. Then you form him up with Alvin Kamara, and then you give Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs. So right now, I mean, you only have the Ravens, the Browns, and the Bucks and the Chiefs. You got 4 teams left to choose from, right?
Yep.
So and here's the thing. We'll make this interesting because right now we need 3 positions. Let's throw a kicker in there. All right, so that'll round out our 8 spots. Okay, we'll throw a kicker in there. Okay, I know they have one job to do. That'll make it a little interesting. So we'll come back around the horn back to John. Now, John, you can't say you're going running back first here. So now you have to actually take what the board shows you here. So where are you going next? What spot? What team? What position?
So you kind of threw me off because I was taking like our top picks and I was actually putting in a lineup.
Okay.
So I have like a lineup kind of already built, but now I'm okay. I need to fill the quarterback position. That's what I'm antsy on, but
or tight end.
Well, off topic, but I did our picks. Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Akers, and Kamara. I have all 4 of those in my lineup. To save money, I went with what's his name? Deontay Harris in New Orleans for $3,500, and I threw in Dawson Knox for $3,100, and I put in the Rams D at $2,600.
That's good. I like that.
So I'm just going kind of stars and scrubs. I got 11,300 left. I got to fill the QB and the flex spot.
Okay.
So in the QB, to me, it's Brady's list is 5th in salary. So it's one of the top 5. I'm not going below that.
So going Brady.
But how about for our stud lineup?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I am going Brady, and he's a nice price, which gives me 5,000 left for our flex, which I would like a consensus pick on.
Yeah, let's go. So here's the thing. If, for everybody listening, you look at this right now, and what we'll do is we'll tweet this out and we'll just say, hey, this is the line we're going. So John, I don't know if you could do the when this is over, I'll get you to snip that and send a picture to me.
I think Hunt's 4,800, John.
What's that?
I think Hunt 4,800.
He is.
So
Fournette's 4,900.
Yeah.
So right
Beasley.
now
I like Beasley this week too.
we have Tom Brady as our quarterback, Cam Akers as number 1 running back, number 2 running back, Alvin Kamara. Then we have Stephen Diggs, Devontae Adams, Dawson Knox. You have as a tight end.
No. That's just his player. Oh, are we doing our lineup or his player on lineup?
This was I just plugged those guys in to save money.
The guys in as we were talking. So
so we're doing John's lineup right now. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, this is our lineup.
Oh, so I don't think we counted Knox.
No, I just started throwing in our first picks for each of us.
I get that, but I wasn't sure if Tony put Knox in as our tight end.
No, I did because we need to save money because we have all studs.
Yeah, exactly.
Devontae Adams, Diggs, Kamara, Akers, Brady. Like, yeah, we're not swimming in the dough here. So
right, exactly. So ready, here you go. So right now, just give us. So just act like we have Brady, Akers, Kamara, Stephen Diggs, and Adams. How much money left do we have to spend?
If I remove Harris and Knox,
yeah,
that would be 66 and 5,000. So 11,600 for 3 spots.
For 3 spots.
That's not.
Oh,
that's
we
not
have
a
the
lot.
Rams defense, right?
How about Cameron Braid at tight end?
We
Like
could do
2,900, I think.
We could do Brate.
I like Brate. Who else do we have? So we'll get a consensus.
Brate's at 29. I mean, Gronk's at 36. Higbee at 3,000.
And then you plug in a cheap defense, and then you could have, you said, around 48 to 5,000 left for your flex, right?
Well, the Rams are second cheapest behind the Browns against KC.
Rams too.
All right, so
I like the Rams at 2,600 more than the Browns at 23.
Me too.
Yeah.
So that's the second cheapest defense, which leaves us with a wide receiver and a flex, and we have $43.50 to spend.
Wide receiver and flex,
$43.50 each.
Oh,
I don't know. I like Harris. I think your pick of Harris is good for a
once again, he was the cheapest guy that I would consider, like, you know, with the possibility of actually putting up some type of stats.
7 targets last week too. That's solid.
Yep.
So we got 5,200 left.
I mean,
Hollywood Brown, Ronald Jones,
Ooh.
Mark Andrews, Fournette, Hunt, Beasley, Singletary.
We talk about Ronald Jones too. I mean, that was another guy that kind of screwed me last week.
he
got hurt.
He screwed a
He got
DFS
hurt on the opening series and didn't play.
right for me.
I heard it was pregame, but he kept his helmet with him the whole game.
Just in case.
Well, to go with Jason's thought process, my gut is to leave money on the table and put Hunt in the flex spot.
Hunt at 4,800.
But Jason loves Cole Beasley too, so.
Well, I would take Hollywood Brown over Beasley, and I have not been a Hollywood Brown guy at all, but I just feel like in the playoffs they're going to have to hit him on a deep ball.
Yeah.
The only problem is you're going to have Hollywood Brown up against Tre'Davious White. I don't know if that's a really good matchup per se for Hollywood Brown.
Hollywood Brown, it's not like there's contested throws. Like,
no, I know
he gets by the guys because everybody thinks it's a run, or you know what I mean, or Lamar held on to the ball for like 15 seconds.
No,
right.
I'm with you.
I don't care. We could do whatever we agree on.
I'll go with the consensus, man. I like it. So I like the Harris pick. You know, I like the Rams defense. And who's the tight? Like Cameron Brate at tight end?
Yeah. So do we go Hunt, Beasley, or Marquise Brown?
All right.
I feel like in this position you got to go upside, and I feel like Hollywood Brown has the highest upside.
Yeah, I'm afraid. I'm afraid with the Hunt pick. I am. I'm afraid of that game. I have a feeling that it's not going to go in the Browns' favor. Spagnuolo is going to put a great game plan together on the defensive side, and I think Chris Jones will wreak havoc up against Baker Mayfield. So I'm not sure how that game is going to go. So I would lean and Beasley. I can see the Ravens kind of hemming up Josh Allen. I think the Bills win that game, but I don't think Josh Allen puts up ridiculous numbers. I think it's a closer game than we all think. So I would lean towards Hollywood Brown as well.
And I do as well. 8 and 9 targets the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's volume is money, man. Volume is money. So like Jay said, best upside. So I would go with Brown.
Sorry to change that around, guys. We were going one player per team, but
no, I like that.
That was more fun anyway.
I like it. I like it. Just do me a favor. Put that snip that on your screen. Send that to me later through Twitter, through DM on Twitter, and then I can post it as part of the show. But listen, great conversation. Playoff fantasy. I know it took we went through it a little, but this again. This is real time. This is what you should be doing when you do a lineup. It takes time. It's not something where you just hammer out because we talked about this last week. If you're just picking players without any research, might as well just throw your money in the trash because maybe you step in elephant shit every now and then and you're like, whoa, I'm good. But it doesn't normally work out that way. Trust me. A lot of research goes behind that. So listen, NFL wise, it's some great discussion. Really looking forward to these playoffs this weekend. Let's transition over to the NBA. I know that the sport that John doesn't want to talk a lot about. So I got to keep going.
You're saying things that I didn't say. I didn't say I don't want to talk a lot about it. I said I might not have a lot to talk about.
I don't know. I thought he said he wanted to go first. I don't know. That's
what I thought.
Hey.
Well, let's see, because we're gonna talk about the NBA NBA DFS Heat Ratio Crossover League that was won last week by Viggy Smalls, who shout out to my boy Seth, my Fox Sports The Gambler PI, my boy does a lot of great content work for us. Listen, great lineup last week. Right now looking at it, he goes Karis LeVert, who's on the move, obviously, this week. But, with no Kyrie out there, he'll 560 points by Karis LeVert. Great game. 46% ownership, which really decent number. Cole Anthony, which I know me and Dan talked a lot about between each other through text messages, 24 points for Cole Anthony. And Jeremy Grant, wow. What 50 points for Jeremy Grant, but an absolute stud. We're going to talk about him later. Zion Williamson with a 39. Jared Allen. Here's where I want to let everybody know. This is where you win your money. So he drafts Jared Allen at a 7% ownership, gives him 32 points. Okay. Drew Holiday, 15% ownership, gives him 36 points. Nicholas Batum gives him 32 points at 15% ownership. And then Patrick Beverly rounds it off with 20 with a 7% ownership. So
the guy that got me.
Is that who got you?
Yeah, those Batum and Beverly were like, if George is in the game doing nothing, I'm like, give George the ball.
Crazy, man. Crazy. And then
I was 4 points behind him, right?
Yep. Yeah. You were 286.75 and Viggy was 291. Chill 1976 is 289, which is a friend of Jason's. He had a great lineup as well. I mean, his big money guys, Karis LeVert again, Fred VanVleet has been balling out. Jason Tatum, but again, it was a kind of a group bunch, a group effort on that team. And Dan, you rounded out the top three. I still don't know why. I have to figure this out, but just so you guys know, every time I put these in, I put top three paid, and for some reason it defaults to 5. I don't know why. I have no idea. I promise I'm going to try to figure it out this week. But I put top 3 get paid, and then when I put it in, it goes to top 5. And then once it's in, you can't edit it. So I don't know what's going on.
Hey, can we talk about Chill 1976? That's Craig Hill, my boss and friend. He once, true story, 2017 fantasy World Championship qualifier, Craig Hill. He went to the World Championships in Miami in 2014.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we're playing a ringer.
True story. So he got one guest, and he asked me to go with him, but my wife was about to have a baby in like 3 days, so I couldn't go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, not that I was on a golf trip before my wife was ready to have a baby, but even before that, I was at a tailgate whenever I found out I was having a baby. So I ain't around much.
Yeah, he called me, and I was like, I should probably stay home.
Yeah, probably good move, Jason. Definitely good move. The retirement fund will thank you. Trust me, 100%. But listen, it was a really good competitive matchup last week. For the top 5 guys were only separated by a few points. Again, I don't know. Shout out Fire Cobra. Let us know who you are. I know you're a listener and you're in there, but I have no idea what your name is. But again, pretty well. The one staying point in a lot of these lineups in the top 5 is Cole Anthony, is Karis LeVert, and Jason Tatum. Those 3 guys were in a lot of those lineups up top. So hit those big money guys down the end, man. Hit those big money, low ownership guys. Get those 7 to 8% drafted guys. They're the guys that you want. So again, really good league. Make sure you get the invitation. You only 13 guys out of the 20 got in last week. I was a little disappointed at that. Let's try to get those 20 guys in there and make this a little more competitive. But all in all, it's going to be a fun year. So let's talk about DFS, and I won't go to John first, okay? But I want to talk about number one. I want to talk about one guy. It's a Philly own. I want to talk about Joel Embiid, who put up a monster game last night with 46 points and double-digit rebounds, and just showed that he can be a monster under Doc Rivers. And for all you people, we talk about, I did my fantasy vignette today. I did it on Kevin Durant because just like football, you always pick the one guy. Like we just talked about big money guys with Devontae Adams, Stephen Diggs. I think in basketball, even more frequently, I always do a big 3. And my big 3 every week is, okay, they're my 3 big money guys, and then I build around them. But more than not, it was James Harden. Then James Harden kind of fell back. Steph Curry's one of those guys. Kevin Durant's one of those guys. What I want to ask you guys is Joel Embiid turning into one of those guys? Is he that guy that you're going to spend that 9, 10, 11 grand for? Because he has absolutely been consistent. Dan, I'll go right to you first. Philly guy, we chase the Philly sports passion. Joel Embiid, is he going to be in your top 3 to put in your lineup every single night?
Absolutely. I mean, we have the privilege of seeing him night in and night out. So we're basically watching him as if we're watching tape. We're not trying to catch a West Coast game here and there, and then seeing the Joker playing well. Like I had Jokic the other night, and he got me 23 points. So Embiid is going to get you 30 and 12 on a sleepless night.
You're right. He looks like a different player this year.
Well, he's in great shape.
He is. He definitely is. And I don't know if that it's a culmination effect of him being a new father, having a new coach, trying to live a different lifestyle. I'm not sure. Maybe the girl got in his ass a little bit, was like, yo, you need to lay off those milkshakes, my man. You know what I mean? I don't know. Something happened. Something clicked, but looks like a different player. He looks a little more invested into himself, which is something that he needed to be. But you're right there. I mean, he is consistently a double-double machine every single night. And the one thing, Jason, that we wondered in Philadelphia with Doc Rivers was the offense going to flow through Joel Embiid? And that was the biggest thing. Was it going to go around the outside shooters, or was it still going to funnel through Joel Embiid? And it shows right now it's funneling through Joel Embiid. So with that being said, Jason, is he one of your top guys in your lineup every week?
You know what? He is now. I would put him in the top 3 for sure, not in any particular order, but I would say him, Westbrook, and Luka is kind of who I usually build around. Luka's not been the greatest this year, but that triple-double potential is there every time he plays. And yep. Russ, I think you brought up the point about Russ a couple weeks ago. It's like he's almost a walking triple-double too. So yes. I love the 3 of them. I think as of right now, obviously it's super early, but Embiid is the MVP so far. That's my take.
I agree with that. And the one good thing about Russ is why I like Russ so much too. He's on a bad team. Washington stinks, right? So he's consistently playing behind, and he's just going to get garbage points. And Russ is all about himself, right? Russ is all about Russ, right? We know that. So and I'll tell you what, Russ got a little extra junk in the trunk this year, man. I don't know if he was his quarantine habits were, him and Harden were hanging out, but right, I was watching him. I'm like, whoa, his shorts look a little big, but no, wait, that's just his ass following him down there. But
well, you know what too about Russ is that he doesn't play every game, so he plays probably 2 out of every 3 games. So he's going to go balls to the wall for those 2 games, and then he sits out the 3rd game or a back-to-back. He always sits out. So
that's when you load up on Bradley Beal when Russ sits.
Yes, even though I think Bradley Beal is the next shoe to drop. He definitely doesn't finish the year in Washington. I could tell you that. No doubt. Hopefully it's going to be in Philadelphia, but that's another conversation for another day. Because I'll tell you what, right now, and we'll get to this on Half Court Heat, me and Andre now. But if Washington called me up tomorrow and said, "Hey, we really like that Ben Simmons kid, and let's talk Bradley Beal," I will Uber Ben right to the airport, man.
What if they want to
Bradley Beal all day long?
What if they want Maxey as part of the deal?
No, I can't. Listen, I that's the thing.
Good.
I can't. He's locked to me. He's locked.
Did you guys see that trade today? That was what the rumor was. It was Maxey.
Yeah,
that's why I knew it was going to happen.
That was a lot.
Yep. I mean, listen, Tyrese Maxey, and I said this last night, and I'm going to reiterate it every single day because he is the best draft pick to start out that we've seen, and I know it's early, since AI. He really is. The thing is, if you look at Joel, and here's the thing, Joel Embiid was hurt. Ben Simmons got hurt. I'm talking about instant gratification, instant production. We have not seen that in Philadelphia since Allen Iverson.
Well, maybe Holiday a little bit.
Yeah, but I don't think he was. Yeah, but he wasn't. He didn't have a flash.
Plus, there were some really bad teams, so it's hard to judge because a lot of those guys got a lot of minutes. Michael Carter Williams won Rookie of the Year. I'm just saying. So, Maxey on a great team as far as talent goes is standing out. I think that's the sales point.
No, you're right.
That killed me. Took Killian Hayes first, so I actually like that pick. He got hurt, but I actually like him. So you have him. They had another second or first round pick, and they took Isaiah Stewart when Maxey was still on the board. So when that pick came up, I was like, if you take Maxey here, you could build around those 2 guys, and then they got Bay later, so they could have had 3 stars. I don't know why they took Stewart.
That's right.
That killed me.
That's right. They got Sadiq Bey later, man. That's crazy when you think about it. This was a really good draft. A lot of nice players coming out of this draft. They really are. Dan, you make a good point about Holiday. I forget about Drew because he was on such. They were such bad times. Right. We really want to watch the game.
Thad Young got a lot of minutes as a rookie.
Spencer Halls.
Don't go there. Spencer Halls 2.0 with the long hair.
Yeah. I mean, there were some bad teams, man. That's one thing. You're looking back on Philadelphia basketball history, it's some bad teams. But listen, JoJo definitely going to be in my top lineup every night. The only thing I will say, just be careful, especially with the whole back-to-back factor. I know he played in his first back-to-back this year, which was a great sign, but you really have to play close up to game time with NBA DFS because these guys are dropping like flies. 5 minutes for game time, they're out. You're like, what? So if you're thinking of going to Target or Walmart or food shopping at Wegmans, make sure you bring your phone with you and you're checking that lineup because you're definitely going to need it. Let me switch pants a little bit here. A different position, one of those top 3, because Jason, you mentioned him, is Luka Doncic, he's one of the only players to score 2+ 70-point games in a row this year from fantasy purposes. And even on a bad day, it's a good day for Luka Doncic. No matter what, he produces every single game, and he is one of the guys. Now, you look at the way you build that lineup in your top 3. So I always say, I like to build in and out. I like to get that big guy down low, and I like to get that guy up top. But Luka Doncic, he gets into that category where you look at guys like Damian Lillard, and guys like Steph Curry, who is playing out of his mind again this year, which I'm so happy to see, and my fantasy team likes that because I shot where everybody was kind of pushing him back a little bit. So I'm kind of glad. But Luka Doncic is a guy, again, top 3 guy that you can always put. So let's look at players that are Luka Doncic-esque, so to speak, that could give you, that aren't going to cost you $11,000, that are actually going to got maybe 7 or 8,000, because one of those guys was Karis LeVert. And they're the kind of guys you like to hit on. You in NBA, especially with the COVID protocols, is what I want to bring up, is there's guys that are sitting every single night. And there was guys like Raul Neto, if you watched it, that was just going off because, you know, certain guys were out of the lineup and couldn't play, right? You're seeing Osman go off right now because guys are not in the lineup and being able, these are the kind of guys you have to hit on. Saddiq Bey is another guy in Detroit that went off because of, he got more playing time because of a Blake Griffin injury. So many different things happen in the NBA standpoint. So Jason, maybe a couple guys, I know one of the guys that we talked about, real low budget guys last week, and we mentioned a guy like Jalen Brunson. I know we talked in Cleveland about guys like Darius Garland are really going off. We talk about Charlotte, LaMelo Ball, who's not a low budget guy, but really going off, right? But guys like maybe a Devontae Graham, maybe DeAndre Hunter in Atlanta, any other guys you kind of been formulate your lineup around that been in that maybe $6,000 to $7,000 price range.
Yeah, you know what? There's been a few. One of the guys is a guy we kind of touched on a little bit earlier too, is Jeremy Grant, but he's now up to like I think 8 something. But
yeah,
he has been an absolute stud this year. I mean, I think he set a career high 3 games in a row. So he's been a stud. I mean, for the longest time, he was low 7s in the pricing. So I was playing him every single night. Now I think he crept up to 8,000 something. But I like him a lot. I like to get guys that get a lot of stats in a lot of categories, if that makes any sense. That's why LaMelo Ball, I mean, he's not super cheap, but he's kind of like that, where he doesn't really wow you with any one stat. But I mean, like 11 points, 5 assists, almost 5 rebounds, and 2 steals. I mean, that's better in fantasy than it is in real basketball, I feel like. So I like him a lot. I like Halliburton too from the Kings. He's the same way. It's you know, almost 11 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, and steal. He's not going to wow you, but he's a stat stuffer. So I like that too. Yeah, and Devontae Graham, I like him too. Yeah, Devontae Graham. The one disappointing thing about Devontae Graham is he's not scoring as much as he did last year. So he's not been quite as good. But
I wonder if that's a LaMelo Ball and a Terry Rozier factor. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of ball hungry guys in Charlotte now. You know, they might not be great, but they're all wanting the ball out there. You know what I mean? 100%. Dan, who do you got? A couple guys that you kind of that $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 range.
Dillon Brooks and maybe Malik Beasley.
Yeah, Dillon Brooks is a good one. I like Dillon Brooks in Memphis. He's been, you know, you mentioned a couple guys last week. I remember we were talking about Terrence Ross for Orlando, and he kind of, I mean, he came back. You know, he was injured, came back. I mean, he's for such a high number to me. Terrence Ross is between 6 and 6,300, and he's really. I mean, last 3 games 9, 21, and 14. That's to me. I don't understand why that salary is so high. That number has to come down for me. I can't pay $6,100 for Terrence Ross, but Dillon Brooks has been really good this year. Really good. You know, he has been consistently good too. So he's another guy to look at. I'll tell you what. One of my favorite guys who seems like his number doesn't budge, and I'm not sure why, is Mikal Bridges. I really like throwing Mikal Bridges of Phoenix in that lineup. I mean, he is consistently hovering around, you know, a $5,200 to $5,600 value. And from a fantasy perspective, I mean, he's consistently giving you 25 plus points per game. So I'm not sure why you don't pick a guy like Mikal Bridges at 5,500 on a consistent basis. They're the kind of guys I target, and they're always in my lineup. Jason, I know you mess around me because when I was posting my lineups and I had Lou Dort in there, and you're like, you love your son Lou Dort, right? But he's like, what I gravitate towards certain guys like that because if you look, their numbers don't move, but they're consistent. So I'm like, I know for $5,000 I'm getting 25. Sign me up every night of the week because that allows me to give us that big 3. You know, you can do the big 3 if you can get guys like that. So I really like Mikal Bridges, and it's a good team. You know, you look at the offensive scheme of any team or the players that you're picking, and you know right there he's the 3rd guy in line to score. All right, so you know you have Booker, you have CP3, but The thing with Chris Paul is Chris Paul's not going to be averaging 25 points per game. We talked about this on the show. He's going to be dishing the ball out. He's going to be throwing dimes a lot more than putting it in the hoop. So he's going to be going to guys like Mikal Bridges. So, and when people are gravitating towards Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges is the beneficiary of a lot of those numbers. So I like Mikal Bridges. Now, John, I know you didn't have much NBA talk. Gave you a lot of content there, dog. Come on, man. Hook me up with a name. Give me something. I know you're ready.
Well, I don't really follow the daily prices as much, but I do have my NBA, season long league that I'm in. What's the price on Brandon Ingram nowadays? Like Brandon Ingram,
it's high.
Is it up there now?
It's
Yeah,
like 9,000 somewhere around there. Usually.
Yeah. And what about Middleton?
85. Yeah.
All right. So all right. Neither of those. I mean, I've been riding Austin Rivers recently as a cheaper option in my daily lineups. Those where I'm just looking at, stat wise this year, who was I like guys that are getting the rebounds and assists, not the one category wonders, and really getting those guys that contribute in multiple ways. The top guys are the top guys, but Austin Rivers, he's been doing me good. We already talked about Jeremy Grant, and I mean that's pretty much it. Other than I keep trying to ride Joe Harris, and sometimes he shows up and sometimes he doesn't.
It all depends on what kind of headband he's wearing during the game. You know what I mean?
And I had a little ride on Eric Gordon too. I've always had a thing. I always catch him on hot streaks on daily, and this is going back even a couple years.
Eric Gordon is a very streaky shooter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You're right though. When he's on, and that Houston team is running, he is a very good option. He can either help you or he can hurt you. You know what I mean? Because he's not a low budget guy, but he's got that tweener in between. But you need consistent production from him if you're gonna put him in your lineup. So
you look for him to go on that heater.
Yeah,
if he gets on that heater, you get him in after 2 games.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like Adam Dunn hitting home runs. As soon as you see him hit like 2 home runs, it's like here comes the heater.
Yeah.
Wait, who was the even more recently the Nationals first baseman that went to Atlanta?
Mark Reynolds, wasn't it?
Mark Reynolds is another guy. I don't think that's who I was thinking. There was another.
Oh, you're thinking of Adams, right?
Yes,
Matt Adams.
Yeah, Matt Adams. Yeah.
Yep.
Big boy. Definitely, man. Man, Adam Dunn. Adam Dunn looked like he was so big. He looked like he was swinging a twig. Like it didn't even look like a bat. Like it didn't even.
I like how he would hit 50 bombs and hit 214. Like
that's like 300 times.
You guys are too young for Dave Kingman, but he was the modern day Dave Kingman.
Yes, you hear that name a lot, Dave.
A guy that Dunn's probably over 400 home runs for his career, right?
I think he is,
and so is Dave Kingman. But
I'd love to see the strikeouts, right?
Yeah, they
210 strikeouts per year.
I literally remember doing my baseball projection years ago with Adam Dunn, and no joke, I had to project him with a batting average of 204. Usually, like the guys will bat like 230, but somehow you project like a 250 next year or something. No, he's 204.
Rich says
210 Ks.
It's so true, man. 100%.
Couldn't run at all. If he didn't hit a home run, he looked like he was lumbering to first base.
Oh yeah, definitely. But John, you did. I want to touch on your Austin Rivers. And I know you're more of a traditional guy. I know you play daily, but I know you like the traditional leagues. And Austin Rivers and daily is actually a really good value game to game. I mean, listen, his salary. As long as it's under 5,000, there's games where you could have got him for 43 and 4,500, and he's giving you 25 to 30 fantasy points, and he plays on a bad team. I mean, they're a 500 team, the Knicks 4 and 5, but they're not going to set the world on fire. But he gets clock. I mean, he gets 30 plus minutes, so that's important. They're the kind of guys you look at, and again, low ownership guys. We talk about it all the time. 15% ownership on a week-to-week basis. So there are guys that you really, really have to look at. There's so many guys we could talk about, that are on, in DraftKings. But if you look at it, for the most part, it's those same guys that are in everybody's lineup. It's only the two couple guys, which is why we try to give you low value. There's another couple guys I want to talk about. You look at a guy right now, look at Terry Rozier, who started off on fire, but then again, he kind of took some steps back. And they're the kind of guys you have to look at the matchup. You have to look at who they're balling against. You have to look at the minute potential, especially with the Charlotte Hornet teams. But Boston is a team to me that seems like on every given night, you can't go wrong with Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Both of those guys are going to light up the scoring ranks. I mean, listen, Jason Tatum, who every time I see that name, I just see flashes of Markelle Fultz in my head because I wanted Jason Tatum. Right? I mean, listen, Jason, you talked about Detroit. I talk about the Philadelphia thing. I remember, we were at the draft, and I was jumping up and down when they drafted Markelle Fultz because I wanted Jason Tatum so bad. But here's a guy, again, $9,000 consistently, anywhere between about $8,500 and $9,200. But he's giving you 50, 45. They are consistent numbers, and that's what you want to look at. I personally, I think Jaylen Brown's the better DFS player. I don't know what you guys think, but I've had more luck with Jaylen Brown in lineups than Jason Tatum. But any other guys, and even we would touch on the Celtics guys, because another guy I really like is Marcus Smart. That he's an underlining guy. If you get him in the right matchup, he's only going to cost you about $5,000, and he's the kind of guy we were talking about too. But Dan, you got any other guys that you've been focusing on? Maybe a guy that you see starting to move ahead, that maybe in the next coming weeks could be that high DFS potential guy.
Maybe Fox.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox is starting the ball.
And I love Zach LaVine. So that when you talk about, this is a little off topic, when we talk about the Sixers trying to acquire first Harden, obviously that's not happening, and then Beal, I'm actually hoping they try to make a play for Zach LaVine.
Zach LaVine is nice. He is. I'll tell you what though. Here's what scares me about Zach LaVine. I just get scared that he's not going to be able to maintain, his consistency with the way he's been playing over the last, I would say, year and a half when he was healthy. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's a Chicago thing. I get worried that if he would come here, he wouldn't be the same guy. I'm going to say a name.
He doesn't have to be.
Well, here's a name for you, and this is way far-fetched, but for some reason I think of the name Keith Van Horn. I don't know why.
Ooh.
I know. And what I mean is, obviously Zach LaVine is much more talented, in my opinion, than Keith Van Horn. But when Keith Van Horn was balling, and then he came here, he was like a different version of a player.
He was past.
Who is this guy?
He was past his prime when he came here, though.
He was.
Hey, you know who had a poster of Keith Van Horn on their wall when they were a kid?
I'm going to guess you.
Did you?
Yeah. From his back in the Utah days.
Keith Van Horn, man. Wow. There was a player.
Him and Andre Miller on the same team, right?
Yeah. They were Final Four.
Andre Miller. There's another name for you. Yeah, Andre. There's a lot of guys that had a nice cup of coffee at the end of their career with the Philadelphia 76ers. Ain't there, Dan?
Andre Miller could play.
No, he did. Listen, he could shoot, which is something that Eric Snow couldn't do. He was better
here than Keith Van Horn was. Put it that way.
Eric Snow, Michigan State Spartan. Eric Snow.
Yeah, exactly. Rich says past his prime, Van Horn legs were shot when he came to Philly. Oh, 100%. 100%. I just Zach LaVine is first of all, let's just go back and give our props to the Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon dunk contest show for 2 years in a row, which was just absolutely ridiculous.
That was phenomenal.
Oh, it really was. I
YouTubed that. I YouTubed that ironically about a week ago. And
Did you?
Yeah, it was the best slam dunk ever.
I tell you, as a kid, and we're all in the same era basically. Jason's the young buck here, but when we talk about slam dunk contests, obviously it was always Jordan to me. It was always Jordan versus Neek,
Dominique,
right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yep. And then it kind of got stale a little bit, right? When you had like the Cedric Sabalas, you had the D Brown days, right? Remember, pump it up,
D Brown,
pump it up, yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And then it kind of, you had the Kenny Skywalker come out of nowhere, right? And then it kind of went downhill.
Remember Isaiah Ryder?
It's J.R. Ryder. Isaiah Ryder. First one to go between the legs in the air, right?
Well, then you had Vince Carter, and Vince Carter kind of took it over for a year or two.
Vince Carter was,
when he did
he was amazing.
Vinsanity. Vinsanity was absolutely amazing. He was. But you look at it, and when that slam dunk contest between Gordon and
Levine,
I don't think the best part about it was nobody seen it coming. Like, that wasn't something that was hyped up like, yo, wait for the night, man. Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine. I mean, Zach LaVine's first dunk, you were like, what? Where did this kid come from?
But you know what's awesome about those two, Tone? That proves a point that if you work at something, what couldn't they do at that time in their career?
That's true.
And they both can stroke it now from the outside.
No, you're right.
I mean, they worked at their game. It's not hard. You wouldn't think it's hard to do to work on an outside shot.
That's a great comment too. Andre Miller played like it was like Friday Night at the Y. The way he played, like so slow and methodical, and like really good fundamentals. Like, I love Andre
Friday Night at the Y. That's classic. I love it. Oh my God, that's too funny. It's true. Andre Miller, man, when in Cleveland, he was the man. I mean, I think I actually had an Andre Miller jersey, by the way.
We got him for Iverson, right?
Yes. Yep.
You had a jersey. Oh my!
I did. I had an Andre Miller jersey. Ready for this one? I have, and I still have it. I'll wear it for a show for the hell of it. I have a Cleveland Cavaliers DeJuan Wagner jersey.
Wow.
Check that. Yeah.
Camden's best.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. But listen, for everybody out there listening, again, make sure if you're in the Heat Ratio Crossover League, make sure the invites go out, just so everybody knows. DraftKings, the way they run things is I cannot add the contest in until after the last game is over, which means if that last West Coast game gets over at 1 o'clock in the morning, I love you all, but I'm not waiting up to 1 a.m. to put a contest in. So it'll be in first thing in the morning. So you do have all day and all night, but unfortunately, it's not like football where you can go in and put it in on Tuesday or Wednesday. It has to be the day before. So make sure you check your alerts. Make sure you check your leagues. But I just want to get into little final thoughts. We'll go around. Any kind. Bless you. Any kind of. John's had.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Basketball.
I couldn't find the mute button quick enough.
That's great. I love it. Love live shows. Let's go a little. I love it. Little fancy Firebox final thoughts. This could be anything. John, we could talk. I want to start doing this on each segment. Just if you want to look towards hockey, if you want to look towards baseball, if you got something on football, if you got something on basketball, it's just your final thoughts, whether it be a player, whether it be a team, whatever you want to talk about to end this show on the last couple minutes. So Dan, you're always a man of many names. If we say, hey Dan, want a low value player, you give us 10 or 12. So I'm sure you got thoughts brewing in your mind right now. And tomorrow night, let's not forget, tomorrow night, Flyer Nights, right? Flyer Nights is back, second episode. You guys did great. Him and Vance, wonderful show. You got a lot of good reviews, looking good, man. Can't wait for tomorrow night. Heat Ratio Sports with Dan. Final thoughts, Fantasy Firebox, go.
Well, since we're talking, since you put a promotion out for my hockey program, one of the DFS things to look at in hockey is, and I stress to build around your goalie, but it's hard to put a hockey lineup together because once you get those elite guys, your money goes faster in hockey than any other DFS that I've done. So, I mean, I had to put together a stack tonight where I had Oscar Lindblom in my lineup with Couturier on the Flyers.
Okay.
That's the only top line I could stack that was available to me. And I missed most of the last period because of the show. So I'm curious how my guys perform. But, so Oscar Lindblom was I think 2,700 for hockey. That's a low number. So it's, for hockey, it's definitely a stacking DFS. You want to get top lines or top power play unit guys for 3 teams. And then you want to get high-end, high-minute guys on defense. And you got to build around your goalie because you get 6 points just for winning the game.
Ooh.
And you give up, and you lose 3.5 points for every goal that you give up. So you have to build around a goalie that's going to win the game.
Excellent. I like it. Great thoughts, DFS hockey. My man Dan Green. Make sure you check it out. Flower Nice promo tomorrow night, Thursday night. Check it out. YouTube Heat Ratio Sports. John, final thoughts. What do you got, Fantasy Firebox, buddy?
The only thing that cures my Steelers hangover every year is fantasy baseball. So usually, but within the first week of the Steelers season done, I start my baseball projections to move on to the next thing because I don't want to dwell on the miserable end to the season. So, and my Pittsburgh Pirates sure as heck ain't going to give me nothing to root for. So it's time to start getting ready for my fantasy baseball drafts. And I'll tell you what, doing that prep and then all of a sudden the days get a little lighter later. It's 5:30. The sun's still up a little bit. Maybe we hit 60 degrees, you know what I mean? Saturday, wash the car. Dude, it's baseball season.
Yeah.
School's over.
Yes. I can't wait, man. I really can't. I love fantasy baseball. I do. And now that we have this show, it's going to be great to be able to. I tell you what, when baseball starts, it's going to be interesting because we're going to have baseball, we're going to have basketball. Dan's got hockey. We're going to be talking about the NFL draft and the way the fantasy potential these guys on other teams. I don't know if we're going to be able to fit in an hour and a half. We'll see. We're going to have to try as much as we can. Rich says. It sucks when it's dark at 4:30. I get it, man. It makes you feel old real fast. You're like, what? It's 5:30? Feels like it's like 12, man. It's crazy. I hate that. But final thoughts, Jason. What do you got, buddy?
Well, I'll keep mine short and sweet. When building lineups in NFL this weekend, there's only 4 games. You kind of gotta build with a different strategy. I feel like than you build with the big slate. There's not 13 games. There's not 11 games. Whatever it is. There's 4 games. One way I like to differentiate is kind of expand my stacks a little bit. During the regular season, I'll go the quarterback, a receiver, and then maybe a receiver from the other team. Last week, I had a lot of success going, like I mentioned earlier, with the Bucs, going Brady with Evans, Brown, and Gronk. That right there differentiates you from most people. Most people aren't going to stack 4 guys from the same team. So I like that. And then also the late swap. Take advantage of the late swap. Do not handcuff yourself and put all your guys in the early lineups. Make sure you leave yourself some leeway because if you have to make up points, you're going to have to pick guys that aren't owned. So you're going to have to swap that out late. So don't fall in love with your lineup and keep it. Make sure you're monitoring it the entire time this weekend.
Love it. Great insight as always, Jason. Good work, man. So many different theories, and that's what you want to do. Final thoughts is listen to everybody. I talked about that all the time. Listen to everybody. But formulate. Allow everybody's information to formulate your own opinion is the way I talk about it, because that information, I say this all the time. They're like, oh, you stole those stats. No, actually, stats are anywhere you want. The stats are the stats. Nobody's changing the stats. It's the way you formulate those stats on your own in order to get your numbers is what differentiates you from everybody else. So that's what you have to do. My final thoughts as well as always, besides stay safe and stay healthy, Heat Ratio Sports, we are 6 out of 7 right now. So again, major programming coming. Again, you have a big lineup. We have Mondays, which are going to start next week. Jason's going to be part of that. We have a golf show I think it's going to be called Fairway to Heaven. I heard, which is pretty neat. So that will be our boy Jason and Phil Seifel from All About the Birds. They will be talking golf on Mondays. Again, Tuesdays is Heat Ratio Live. Wednesday, Fantasy Firebox. Thursday, Flyer and Ice. Not Fire and Ice, how I had it typed. My bad producer I am. But Flyer and Ice. And Friday night is going to be the inaugural episode of the College Flashpoint. Our man Jamar Dean talking about all things after the national championship game, talking about draft picks and things of that nature. It's going to be a great show. And on Sundays, we have Half Court Heat with myself, Andre, and Al talking all things NBA. So still looking for that baseball, guys. Still looking for that baseball show on Saturdays. Anybody wants to contribute some content to the Heat Ratio Sports Network, let me know. I'll give you the platform. Do what you need to do with it. And we're all a big family here. We're just trying to change the game a little bit. Not trying to take anybody over. Just give everybody a different outlet to get through these tremendous times that we face and let everybody be a sports fan and get a different perspective. So, as always, Fantasy Firebox, give us a follow at Heat Ratio Sports. I think this is episode 26, but it doesn't matter anymore. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will catch you next week.